Hi everyone, and welcome to 2Player Quest. Today we'll be reviewing Civolution by Deep Print Games. In Civolution, you'll be playing a local deity that has been tasked with creating a new civilization. It is a heavy Euro-style game in which you use dice selection to trigger actions on your tech tree. Let's get into it. Civolution is a game for 1 to 4 players. It takes between 90 and 180 minutes, I agree, with the box in this case. With the second game we played was, with the two of us, about 90 minutes. And with 3 of us, we have played it in about 180 minutes, so that still tracks. When it comes to complexity, it's an I4.22 on BoardGameGeek, meaning this is quite a heavy game, and I wholeheartedly agree with that statement. This is quite a heavy game, but still very fun. When it comes to luck, there is some luck involved, and that's mainly because of the research cards. If you start with the right research cards, that can give you a lot of points if you focus on that, and that can win you the game. But luckily players can affect the game to sort of take that luck down a bit, but it does certainly help, and it is an aspect of the game. This is what the setup of a 2-player game in Civolution can look like. You have 4 errors in this game, and every error can be seen on the left. In every error, you go through the different phases, which are shown on the board on the left. I will quickly walk through them now. You start with new cards. Now I have already done this. You can see the event card on the board on the left for this error, and here on the right there are open cards for all the different types of research. Then you go grab a new goal. Again, I have already done this in this instance. Everybody chooses a new goal from the goal chips track. Then we have the extra find, in which you have an extra find in one of the locations you are currently in. Then comes the action phase. In the action phase, when it is your turn, you can spend 2 dice to do the action associated with those 2 dice. So in this case, I would research and spend those dice and do said action. You can also reset. When you reset, you re-roll all of your dice, move the action phase token on, and then you gain a food or an idea. Once the reset has been triggered 5 times, that is the end of the action phase for this error with 2 players. Then comes the site phase. In the site phase, you score points for some sites. Other sites have other conditions or things that need to happen. It will state on the sites themselves once they are turned around. Then comes the feeding phase. In the feeding phase, you feed all of your tribes. For every strong tribe you have at the end of the feeding phase, you gain 1 point. Then comes the event phase. In the event phase, first you will change the weather to what it says on the event card and do the repercussions of that. And then you will do the event. This is usually positive for the person that it influences, but not always. Then you score points for the things that you can score in that error. That is also stated on the board on the left-hand side. And then the first player token is given to the player who gains the most victory points from that error scoring. And then comes the income phase, in which you first do all of your income chips, then you score points for statues, you move the hunter tokens back to the board, and you reset all of your reset tokens. And that brings you to the end of this error and into the new one, in which you start again at the top of the board. As said before, there are 4 errors in this game. At the end of the 4th error, you continue on the scoring track on this board on the right, and once you've gone through the whole track, the person at the end with the most victory points wins the game. Civolution is a hard game to learn and to teach. It comes with this instruction book, which is frankly bigger than some of the coursework books I have had for school. Plus, the players get a player guide that is 8 pages. It is quite an extensive game. To teach it to new people, I would suggest you need at least half an hour to teach this game, and that is to experienced board gamers who can sort of understand what they're doing. The first time for us learning this, we took about an hour to partially understand what we were doing. Having said that, once you basically sort of know what everything does, you just get going and find out more along the way. But it is certainly a heavy game that takes time to learn. Civolution is very much a points game. It's all about the points and what is the best way to be able to get more points. So if you like puzzling and figuring out the best combinations, this is a good game for you. Because that's basically what you'll be doing. You don't necessarily have a set amount of turns, but you have a set amount of errors. So you don't know exactly how many turns you'll have, and you just have to figure out what would be best for you to do to get as many points as possible. It's not as much as a building up game as some other games, so you don't, if that's something you want, this is not the game for you. We personally quite like Civolution, because it's such a puzzle game with all these different choices to make. It really suits us. We have noticed that you want to choose a tactic and go for it. Don't diversify, you won't win you the game. You need to have a tactic and then fully commit to that tactic. If you play this game, we wouldn't suggest playing it with inexperienced board gamers. And by that I don't mean people who haven't played this game before, but I mean people who haven't played more serious board games before. Because this is a very intense experience and a very intense board game to start with if you're not that experienced. We would also suggest finding a group of people and then playing it a couple of times so that you don't have to keep explaining the rules to more people, as that will take up a lot of time. We believe Civolution is quite a good game for more people. There's not much player interaction, and the mechanics don't change with more players, meaning it still pretty much stays the same. My husband noted that he felt that there were less resets, or that the action rounds just took longer than when it did with the two of us. There are still the same amount of resets per person in every game, but he just felt like more players made a difference in that aspect. But we very much like this game with more people, except for the fact that you have to explain it to more people. And that brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching our review of Civolution. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing. If you have any comments, feedback or suggestions, put them in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you next time on 2 Player Quest.